And let's now extend a very warm welcome to Professor Brahm Fleisch from the Wits School of Education to further unpack this conversation. Prof, thank you so much for joining us today. So Basic Education Minister there, Kwahube, has of course given an update on the department's readiness ahead of tomorrow's final matric exams. And she highlights quite a range and a few measures that have been put in place to ensure and safeguard. In particular, this particular exam period is actually a dignified, transparent and best performing one. What do you think, Prof? Are they ready?
I think they are ready. I think that a range of steps have been taken, not only at national level, but in the provinces, and individual schools are really being put in a lot of effort in preparing their learners for these exams. These are hugely important for children. They have very, very significant consequences for their future. So I think that everybody takes this process extremely seriously. So I have every confidence that the process will be done well.
Absolutely, Prof. I mean, let's look at some of those additional measures that she did, of course, mention in her update there. The issue of this long-lasting impact of COVID. Do you think now it's 2024, that impact should have already, all the long-lasting impacts of the pandemic should have been dealt with by this time? But it seems like there's still various issues that are persistent in the sector as a result of COVID-19.
There's no doubt that COVID-19 had an impact on student learning for at least 2 years. And it's very difficult for children who, for example, are missing key elements of the grade 8 and grade 9 curriculum to master materials in the grade 9, grade 10, grade 12. So I think the challenge is children who are behind not only have to catch up, but have to keep up with the existing curriculum. So there's no doubt that having those 2 years of significant disruption is very difficult to mitigate completely for all children. But I think they've done as best they can. And I think it's important to recognize not just that it's the national department and the provinces, but schools themselves have put in a lot of effort to address some of the challenges that have come because of the pandemic.
Absolutely, Prof. And looking at issues like your socio-emotional support and also this very interesting aspect that they've not forgotten about the rural areas, because we often hear, in changing times in terms of technology, we often forget about those that are actually in the rural areas. So now, with the recent signing of the Bela Bill into law, or parts of it, albeit, as well as the recent pledge to guard against cheating, as well as ensure ethical conduct by both adjudicators or examiners and students, it seems we are at least moving towards a point of addressing some of the challenges that have remained a dent in the sector. But of course, we are nowhere near, but positive strides are being made.
Let's leave aside the question of the quality of the exams. I think the recognition is that over the last 10, 15 years, there have been significant strides in addressing some of the procedural and routine elements of the exam process. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with an exam the size that we have in South Africa, with almost 900,000 learners, there will inevitably be challenges, logistical challenges in rural areas. There are, we're entering the rainy season in the northern provinces. There are going to be difficulty getting the exam papers to schools. There are always those challenges, but I think the departments, the provincial departments, have really done a lot to ensure that all those procedures, steps are in place and they mitigate against any possible challenges. I think at the level of the learners not necessarily following the procedures or attempting to cheat, there are inevitably, in a system of the size that we're dealing with, there will be those children who think that they can find ways around the system. But I think the Gauteng department's steps to put in that pledge are an important part of sending a signal to all stakeholders, to parents, to teachers, but particularly to learners, that they need to think very carefully about the integrity of the exams and their role in preserving the integrity of the exams.
Mm-hmm. And Prof, I mean, obviously, this is quite a critical time for those who will sit down for the exams, as some will be hoping to make those university entry requirements.
Absolutely. And my advice to learners and their parents at this particular time is to maintain consistency. Children need to sleep properly. They need 8 hours of sleep. There's often a temptation to try and study through the night before the exams. Often that's counterproductive. They get to the exams exhausted. So children need to be ensuring that they're sleeping properly, that they're maintaining proper regular sleeping routines, that they're eating well, they're not necessarily skipping meals. They need to be eating properly, and they need to do some exercise. These are part of the important routines that need to be in place so they can perform optimally in the exam itself.
Mm-hmm. And a very quick one, Prof, do you have any programs at Wits where matriculants can actually come and inquire and get some sort of assistance, especially when it comes to the choice of subjects that they undertake and what fields would best suit their competencies, so as to also curb this current issue that we have of over applications in a certain sector, resulting in the high numbers of unemployment in the country?
I think more needs to be done. There are obviously some services provided, not just at Wits, but all of the universities. But I think there's a recognition that providing really good quality guidance for young people is essential. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the universities have a unique role to play. I think the TVET colleges and all institutions of higher education need to ensure that they provide a comprehensive picture of all the options available for young people who have finished their exams.
Absolutely. Prof, thank you so much for this conversation this afternoon. That is Professor Brahm Fleisch, the Wits School of Education, on government's preparedness and readiness ahead of the matric exams that begin in earnest tomorrow.